Hello, welcome to J Lowe Artist YouTube channel. Today we'll be doing some drawing with graphite. So get out your pencils, your cotton swab, kneaded eraser, anything that you think you need to draw with. Have it right handy, and let's draw together. Remember, art makes life better. Thanks for joining me on this little art journey. First thing we want to do when we're starting out with our pencil is we want to establish the size of the head. You want to look at your scrap, look at your reference and say, okay, about where is that head located in my reference? You want to leave yourself plenty of room for legs and things. And so somewhere up in this section up in here, remember that your head kind of dictates the size of where everything goes. So as we're doing figure studies, we start out with the head. We start out with the head size. And you just want to make sure you have plenty of room. But you don't want to go too small. So I'm just going to start out with something about this size. And you know that the human form is 7 or so heads tall. So you want at least to give yourself, and she's kind of curved in her torso, but she's up on her toes. So you want to give yourself the full amount of space. So as I go here, I'm going to kind of use my fingers like calipers and say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's plenty of space there for me to do that. I can even maybe make her head just a wee bit larger. Maybe I'll just go up just a little bit. So that would be the size of her head. And then you can kind of start out with a stick figure. I get this all the time. People go, oh, all I draw is stick figures. So go ahead and start out with a stick figure. Try to get the gist of the body. So there's the neck, and then the body kind of curves, kind of this U shape right there, and then the leg kind of comes up over here. You just want to give yourself a little curve, do a little stick figure kinds of things. You can even start doing the shoulders and say, well, okay, here's the upper torso, and you can use like triangles. There's the upper torso, there's the hip, and off that hip is that other leg, and it slightly curves to the front, and then of course the foot. So you've just got this kind of stick figure, but what you're trying to do is just get the gist of it and get the feeling of where everything goes. There's an arm that comes back here, and one that goes up, and the hand is bent up. Now, let's once you get the gist of it, once you get that idea of where it's going to flow and how it's going to go, then you want to make some marks. And there's a couple of things that we know. We know that the size of the head is about the size of each limb of the arm. So I can come here, you can see where the top of her head and her elbow kind of come together. So right there, you can kind of make a little mark and say, that's where that elbow goes. Top of the head, maybe just slightly above the top of the head. And then the length of the head, and you can use your fingers, or you can use your pencil, or if you've got a ruler, you can use your ruler, or you can even take tracing paper, lay over the top, and you can mark the size of head you need. I mean, however you want to do it is up to you. But if you go from the elbow to the wrist, that's about the size of the head. And I'm pretty darn close there. So elbow to the wrist is about the same size as the head. And same thing over here, I can go from the shoulder to the elbow. I can make a little mark there and say that's where the elbow is, and then elbow to the wrist. So amazingly, I'm pretty close. I can even mark where my hand goes here in this little kind of a rectangle. You can even go in and put in things like fingers if you wanted to. Now, as far as the thigh goes, thigh is about a head and a third. So I can come down here and say, okay, the thigh's going to start here. There's a head, Then if I take another third, if I break this up into thirds and do another third, that's about where the end of the thigh, and then the knee is up here about where her hand is. And it kind of curves up. Now this limb is foreshortened. In other words, it's going away from us a little bit. So sometimes you have to just kind of look at it and kind of guess. The top of her foot is almost level with the top of her head. So you can kind of come straight across and just say, okay, somewhere in there is about the top of her foot. And it comes out beyond where her fingertips go. So if her fingertip is there, the top of her foot's got to kind of come out beyond that. And then this leg, we come down right off of that hip, that thigh, about. So there's one head and a third. If we come down one head and a third, there's that, and you have your knees, and you go another head and a third, back to right in there. Then that's about where your foot goes. And now you can start adding some breadth to it. You've got your little stick figures. We've got our shapes pretty much in the right place, pretty much where they need to go. So I'm going to start adding some breadth to it. I'm just taking our shapes that I see and adding some cylinders and what do you call them? What do you call this shape, you geography people? It's kind of thick on one side and thinner on the other. I probably call it a pylon shape. This arm is down just a little bit, so I have to drop it down a little bit to match everything else. This part of the arm is kind of hidden behind her hair. There's hair that kind of comes down in there. I'm just kind of basically looking at all the parts, like that hand is far too big. And just like normal, draw it right and then erase it. Comparing parts to parts. That's the whole idea of proportioning. So once you have your position and you have your proportions just about right, and as we draw, we can adjust a little bit. That's normal. Then I'm going to start adding things like her outfit, her little skirt kind of comes down just above the knee right there. And I'm just blocking that in. Don't worry about all the little frills and the ruffles and things, just block them in. A couple of things that you need to know when you're proportioning is when you do the head, everything is compared to the size of the eye. She's fairly small, and there's really, I can't even see her eyes. So from here, all I want to do is just use my basic knowledge of proportioning, and that is that the position of things, just like we did the position of her body is according to the size of the head. We're going to do the same thing here, positioning. So I'm just going to kind of come through and say, well, okay, here's her head. It's over here. her eyes are right in the middle because she's kind of looking straight out at us and her head is kind of, so I can go from the top of her head, and sometimes you have to come down just a little bit for the hair because the hair sticks up a little bit, but from the top of the head to the chin, your eyes are just about in the middle. And so you can measure down and just go right in the middle. And you got to trust yourself on this one. You're going to feel like, especially beginning artists, want to put the eyes up a little closer to the forehead. Don't do that. Put them right in the middle. If anything, slightly above, but not much. And then her nose is almost half, but not quite, between her eyes and her chin. So if I go half, if this is half, I'm going to come up about the width of an eye. I'm just going to put a little mark there and say this is where the nose goes. Let me zoom into that. So I'm not drawing the eye, the nose, the mouth. I'm not really drawing those in. I'm just blocking them in. The width of the eye between the bottom of the nose and the top of the lip, you can just throw that in. And her mouth is slightly open, and so I could put it just a little, leave a little gap there, and have a little shadow for the bottom lip. I mean, I'm really not drawing the face here. You know, it looks like that, but it's because your imagination is filling in the gaps. There's your chin. And once I've got those, then I can start doing some shading. With the side of my pencil, I'm just going to shade in some things. That's our basic proportioning. And we can even add some kind of muscle structure and stuff to them. But that doesn't come until your proportions are correct. And it just helps to draw the human form in all its various shapes and sizes. I really enjoyed the model courses, and I had lots of different costumes and things. Had a couple of suits of armor, and so my professor would pay me to come and model in my armor. And so I'd make a little bit of extra money there. I've got to adjust the shoulder down just a little bit. Make a little extra money, as well as I got to go at all those classes. If you really want to get good at something, you sacrifice for those things. So I adjusted that shoulder down. Once I was finished with the neck and the head, you know, you have to adjust that just a little bit, which makes me adjust my hand down a little bit. That's why we're drawing with the side of our pencil, so that we can adjust those things. So now we're ready to start, once we've got our proportioning done, we're ready to start with our values. So we can take our side of our pencil and just start shading in some of those values. Remember, they've got to go darker. So right now we're just trying to get the midtones. Any of those light grays. In this day and age, you have a lot more resources than I had. I used to collect pictures of figure studies and things. When I'd go to classes, we'd take photographs, and I had a huge collection, still have a huge collection. Figure studies. Nowadays you can go online and there are artist sites where they will take pictures of their figure studies, and you can go and draw from those artist sites. We used to have to pay models too. Notice how far back I am on my pencil. This is so I don't press hard. Right now I don't want to press too hard. Because everything here can be easily erased. If you've got your cotton swab from last time, you can start immediately with that cotton swab and start blending some things. This is my cotton swab from last time. The other thing is we don't want a hard line around everything. And so sometimes you like those little soft edges. Just let them take care of themselves. Those little wrinkles in her outfit can be done just with the cotton swab because they're light and soft. Others take a little bit more, a little more care. I hope you guys don't feel too, what's the word, stressed out, intimidated by this. Because you just do your very best as far as you can go. The more you do, the better you'll get. So don't stress too much about these things. So I'm going to try to do the fingers with my cotton swab. Just to see if I can get them to go where they kind of supposed to go. I can always come back in and change things a little bit. So once you're done with this part of it, you should feel fairly confident about what it is that you're doing. I'm just going to go through with my kneaded eraser. And I'm just going to now take off some of those edges and tighten them up with my kneaded eraser. Anything that you don't feel like you want to keep in there. So we've got this kind of ghosty image. And at this point we can change, we can alter, we can add or subtract. So look at your reference. And if there's something that is different, something that you want to change, this is the time to do it. Because we're going to switch over to our 6B and really grind some of this into the surface. So now I'm going to grab my 6B and I'm going to really darken in some areas. One good thing about computer-generated scrap references that I didn't have was you can zoom into it. I actually had a magnifying glass as a kid, and I would zoom into the pictures, and sometimes I'd get so close that I could see all the little dots in the pictures. So for us, we can zoom into this. We can look at her face and zoom into it. And you want to just be very, very basic about what you're doing, because this is really kind of small. So for the face, like for the eyes, there's very little you can do because it's so small. But what you want to do is just start out with the top eyelid and eyelashes. So I'm going to just widen in the outside of the eye just a little bit. So it's a little wider, and then it comes towards the middle, it's thin. And the iris part is just a little bracket. The other side is a little bracket, and you want to leave just a little dot in the center. I don't know if you can see that dot, but just teeny tiny. I don't know if I can get any closer. Okay, so I left that little dot. That just gives that little eye a little bit of a shine, a little bit of light. The bottom lid, don't even worry about the bottom lid. We can put that in with our cotton swab. But there is a little shadow on the inside of the eye, so I can put that little shadow in there. Then just leave out that other side. It's just gone. And the rest of that we can do with our cotton swab. Here's her eyebrow. It's a little darker towards the inside. And that's really all you need to do as far as the eye goes. The nose, there's a little shadow under the nose. So you could put in that little tiny shadow. There's a nostril right there, just a little tiny shadow. The tip of the nose has that core shadow in it. So there's the core shadow. Underneath, there's a little cast shadow under her nose right there. A little shadow down that nostril and up the bridge of her nose. And the other eye is done the same way we did the first. Eyebrow. Top of the eye. Eyelashes. So the outside of the eye is a little thicker. I'm not even putting eyelashes in there. A little bracket on this side, a little bracket on that side with the little dot in the middle. Just a little bit of mascara under the eye. The rest of that, again, we can blend. I'm just going to do a little bit of shading across that cheek. It's pretty dark. So I'm just going to darken that up a little bit. But a lot of that we can get with the cotton swab. Little philtrum under her nose. Goes into her lip. I got to move her mouth over. I had it over this far, way too far. And again, just like the proportions of the face, if you go straight down from the eyes, straight down from the eye, that's about where the corner of the mouth is. I can move that over just a little bit. Straight down from the inside of the eye, that's about the corner of the mouth over here. She's got a shine on that lip, so I'm going to leave it out. There's a little circular area. There's that lip over there. And that's really all you need. Well, let's do a little bit of, there's a reflected light up on her lip up there, and so I'm going to just do this core shadow where her chin is. Blend it out there towards her. Underneath her chin is a little darker. There's hair that's right in there that's darkening up, so you can put those little shadows under the hair. I'll get rid of that. Now I'm just going to take my cotton swab and I'm just going to blend in where the nose is and the cheeks. Even that eye is fairly dark. I don't want it that bright. I do want all that reflected light that's on that one side of her face. I want that to stay in. But because she's so small, that's really all you need. A little bit over that eye, a little bit under that eye. If you get some off on the eye too much, just take your kneaded eraser, pinch it down to a point, pull that light back out, across her nose, on the tip of her nose, a little bit on that cheek and across that eye, and just take your kneaded eraser and pull that out. On her chin, I didn't get all the way to her chin. Pull that out. When you're doing hair, just like we did last time, just take your, go find the dark areas, do that little feathered line around those dark areas. In the direction that the hair flows, and then where the shine is, just leave it out. A good example is right here over her head. This hair comes out of her head and then kind of curls. So you just do a couple little lines that way. Don't be afraid to leave some areas out, because we're going to blend those. And then where that shine is, just leave it. Then pick up any darks anywhere else. Usually on the other side there's a little bit of darkness there. And then we'll blend. And you got it. Some of this upper part of her head is defined by her arm. Maybe I'll just throw that in real quick. Then you can blend with your cotton swab or your finger. You take your kneaded eraser and pull out any lights. Last thing you do is you take your pencil and just put back in any darks that you may have lost, or any incidentals, like just some of that little line. It sometimes feels like it gets lost in there. And that's really it. As far as flesh tones go, one of the easiest things to do is use your cotton swab. So all these little grays that we've got in there, yeah, those are just going to stay there. We're just going to add a little more dark to it, blend it a little bit, pull out the light with our kneaded eraser, and voila, we got it. I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of her that I just did on her face. Just add some darks where the darks go. I'm not worried about those other edges, like this top of her upper arm there, or her lower arm, her wrist, is so white, so light, that I'm just going to leave it out. And the fingers, don't worry about the fingers. In fact, you could probably leave out most of those fingers. You can just do little dark edges like this. And there's your fingers. Here's the tip of the thumb. So I've just got the tips basically in. I mean, there's that hand, and it's really not, I didn't draw the fingers. I just left them out. I'll do a little blending, a little bit with my kneaded eraser, and it'll be done. That whole arm, that whole inside of the arm could be left out. Sometimes though, you think, I just need a little bit to show my viewer where the edge is, so you could leave just a little bit of that in there. Remember too that we want to give our viewer some imagination too. Let them kind of figure out where things go. Just anything that you can see that's kind of dark, because you're going to be blending with that cotton swab too. So don't forget that. Some of those really subtle things that you think, well, I see those and I want to throw a line in there. You got to resist that temptation to throw that line in, and just say, I'll get it later. I think more than anything, drawing is learning to see. You know, looking at an object and seeing what's really there, not what you think is there or what you would like to be there. But then sometimes art is conveying that image. So it's kind of cool. You get to do lots of different ways of seeing things and conveying how you see that to other people. There's that core shadow that's running up her arm. I mean, I look for that because I know that that's going to be there. There's a, you know, after drawing a sphere so many times in art class, you should be able to say, well, I know where the core shadow is and the shadow edge and the reflected light, or at least I know where it should be. Look for it, you'll find it. It's there. A lot of drawing is just that anticipation, being able to find something that you know is supposed to be there. Same thing on this arm too. The upper part is really light. And so I could just leave little sections out and then decide I'm going to take my cotton swab and go in there and pull those out or And use your kneaded eraser to clean up any edges. And don't be afraid to leave those edges just as they are. You don't have to put a line back into them. Just let them go. And the more you work on it, the better it's going to get. Using my kneaded eraser here to clean up some of this. And that also helps to define those muscles that are in there. A little bit far off on this finger, on this hand up here, which is okay because I got my kneaded eraser. I can clean that up. There's a little knuckle right there. Just clean up that knuckle. Make those. And see how I haven't drawn a line around this at all, but that hand is starting to come through. And clean that up. Make it look a little less clunky when I clean it up. I'm gonna do the same thing on this other hand. Is just throw in the shadows that I can see. I'm not thinking fingers, just thinking darks and lights. Not thinking foot here either, just darks and lights. Remember, you're going to be blending with your cotton swab, so you just throw in the core shadows, the darkest areas, and then worry about the blending part later. Like I say, we can always come back in and add more later too. So as you blend, you might think it's dark enough, and then you blend it, and oh, it's not dark enough. You gotta go back in and add some more. Eventually, I'd like to get to the point where we know the parts of the human form, all the muscles and bones. We'll see if we can get that far along. So just worry about the darks and then blend what you need to. So I'm taking my cotton swab there and I'm blending into those light areas. That way you get your reflected light, and if you blend too much, take your kneaded eraser and pop into it and pull some out. Don't worry about the edges. So I'm just using my kneaded eraser like in her leg here to pull out some of those lighter areas, to clean up those edges. Even things like wrinkles and stuff like that, you can use your kneaded eraser to get those. Don't draw them in with your line, because then they end up looking like crevices rather than wrinkles. Then when you're all done, you kind of look at it, you go, okay, do I need some line? Do I need something somewhere? And you can put it in. Try to make that contrast. Make your darks dark. Making those darks pop. And then towards the end, any last minute things that you see, I need to do that, or I need to put more edge there, or a little darker here or there, that can all be done at the last minute. Of course, the last thing you're going to want to do is sign it. Remember that signature is your copyright. It's that proof that you did this beautiful, wonderful thing that can never be done by anybody but you. At least in your style, your way. A good place to sign it would be maybe down there by the shadow area.